The manor had forgotten how to hold warmth. Sebastian Valerius stood at the window of the eastern tower, watching the October fog crawl across the grounds like something searching for the dead. Behind him, the nursery door hung open. Another nanny gone, another suitcase dragged down the gravel drive before dawn, another human who could not bear what lived in the shadows of Thornhaven. 100. He had stopped counting after the first 50, but his steward kept meticulous records. 100 women had come to care for his son. 100 had fled, some weeping, some silent, some with scratches on their arms and terror branded into their eyes. The agency had stopped returning his calls 3 months ago. The local village spoke of the manor in whispers now, the way they had spoken of it 3 centuries before, when his father had ruled these lands with blood and fire. Sebastian was not his father, but his son. A crash echoed from somewhere deep within the house, glass shattering, then silence, thick and absolute. He closed his eyes. Matthias was 7 years old in mortal years, though he had been 7 for nearly 4 decades now. The turning had happened during a fever, a desperate act by Sebastian's late wife Isadora, who could not bear to watch their only child slip away. She had given Matthias her blood without Sebastian's knowledge, without understanding what she was creating, a child frozen in time, a vampire who could not grow, could not mature, could not learn to control the hunger that lived inside him like a second heartbeat. Isadora had destroyed herself within a year, unable to face what she had done, and Sebastian had been left alone with a son who did not understand why he wanted to hurt the people who loved him. The agency's final letter sat on his desk, its words seared into his memory. We regret to inform you that we can no longer provide services to Thornhaven Estate. The safety concerns reported by our employees have made continued partnership impossible. Safety concerns. Such a clinical phrase for the truth that his son had bitten 17 of them, that 3 had required hospitalization, that the last one, a sturdy woman from Edinburgh who had seemed unshakable, had been found in the garden at midnight, screaming that the boy had shown her things, memories that were not her own, centuries of death that no human mind could hold. Sebastian turned from the window. The fog was thickening now, erasing the world beyond the gates. Soon there would be nothing left but the manor and its shadows, the father and the son, the endless turning of nights that led nowhere. He had tried everything. Private tutors from the old families, vampires who understood what Matthias was. They had lasted even less time than the humans. The child is broken, one had told him, an ancient from the Romanian courts who had seen empires rise and fall. His mind is trapped between what he was and what he is. He will never be whole. Sebastian had thrown the ancient through a window for that. It had been unwise. A king should not lose his temper. But he had lost so much already. His wife, his hope, his belief that love could fix anything. Now he had only his son, and his son was slipping further away with each passing year. The knock at the study door was so soft, he almost missed it. Enter. His steward, Marcus, stepped inside, a ghoul who had served the Valerius family for 6 generations, his face weathered by decades of proximity to immortal darkness. My lord, there is a woman at the gate. Send her away. She says she has come about the position. Sebastian laughed, and the sound was hollow, like wind through empty rooms. There is no position. The agency has abandoned us. She did not come from the agency, my lord. Marcus hesitated. She says she saw the advertisement in the village church, the one we posted before the agency took over. 8 years ago. 8 years. Sebastian had forgotten that desperate notice, pinned to a board in a church he had not entered since his turning. A different world, a different hope. She is mortal? Yes, my lord. Young, poor by the look of her clothes. But she would not leave when I told her the position was filled. She said... Marcus paused, and something flickered across his ancient face. She said she had nowhere else to go. Nowhere else to go. Sebastian knew that feeling. He had lived it for 300 years. Send her in. Her name was Clara Bishop, and she carried everything she owned in a canvas bag that had been mended so many times the original fabric was barely visible. Sebastian watched her from the shadows of his study, using the darkness the way his kind always did, as armor, as distance, as a reminder of what he was. She stood in the center of the room, thin shoulders squared, chin lifted, eyes moving across the shelves of ancient books and the paintings of ancestors who had died before her great-grandparents were born. She was not beautiful in the way the world counted beauty. Her face was too angular, her hair too plain, brown, simply cut, practical. Her dress was clean but faded, the blue of it washed to something closer to gray. She looked like poverty, like struggle, like someone who had learned early that the world did not give gifts freely, but her eyes. Sebastian had seen many human eyes in his centuries: fearful eyes, greedy eyes, lustful eyes, hateful eyes. He had watched the light leave them as he fed, had seen them glaze with death or sharpen with desperate prayer. He thought he knew every expression a mortal could wear. Clara Bishop's eyes held none of them. They were gray, like storm clouds before snow, and they moved through the darkness of his study as if searching for something she expected to find. "You are the master of the house," she said. Not a question. "I am." "They say in the village that you are cursed. Do they? They say your son is a demon. That he drove his mother to madness and drinks the blood of those who tend him." Sebastian stepped forward, letting the candlelight find his face. He waited for her to flinch, to gasp, to show any of the reactions that humans always showed when they saw what he was: the too pale skin, the stillness that was not quite human, the ancient weight behind the eyes. Clara Bishop did not flinch. "Is it true?" she asked. "Some of it." She nodded, as if he had confirmed the weather or the day of the week. "And the position is still open? Why would you want it?" For the first time, something shifted in her expression, a crack in the practical armor. "Because I was a nanny for a family in London, twins. I raised them from infancy. I loved them." Her voice caught, then steadied. "There was a fire. I could not save them both. Their parents blame me. I blame myself. I have spent 3 years trying to find work, but word travels in certain circles. No one will hire the woman who let a child burn." Sebastian studied her. The grief was real. He could taste it in the air, the way his kind could taste all strong emotions. But there was something else beneath it, something harder. "You came here hoping to die," he said. Clara's chin lifted higher. "I came here hoping to be useful. If death finds me in the process, I will not fight it. But I will not seek it either. I am not that kind of coward." "What kind of coward are you?" "The kind who runs from guilt. The kind who crosses the country to escape a memory that follows her anyway. The kind who thinks that caring for a monster's child might somehow balance the scales for the child she could not save." Silence fell between them. Somewhere in the house, something shattered. Another tantrum, another expression of the rage that Matthias could not name or control. Clara's eyes moved toward the sound, then back to Sebastian. "I am not afraid of broken things," she said. Sebastian thought of his son, alone in the nursery with his hunger and his confusion and his endless, terrible memory of everything he had ever done wrong. He thought of Isadora, who had loved Matthias so much that she had damned him to an eternity of childhood. He thought of himself, standing in this room, making decisions that might cost another human her life. "The salary is considerable," he heard himself say. "The work is dangerous. My son has appetites that he cannot always control. You will be expected to stay in the manor. You will not be permitted visitors. You will tell no one of what you see here." "I have no one to tell." "Then you will begin tonight." Clara Bishop picked up her canvas bag. In the candlelight, Sebastian noticed that her hands were steady. "Where is the boy?" she asked. "I will take you to him." The nursery had once been beautiful. Clara could see the ghost of it beneath the destruction, the hand-painted murals of forests and stars, the mahogany furniture that must have cost more than her family's house, the crystal chandelier that now hung askew, half its pieces missing or scattered across the floor like frozen tears. In the center of the room, surrounded by shattered toys and torn books, sat a boy. He looked 7, perhaps 8. Dark hair, too long, falling across a pale face. His clothes were fine but disheveled, as if he had been dressed by someone and then immediately set about undoing their work. His eyes were the same crystalline gray as the shards of chandelier around him, and they fixed on Clara with an intensity that should not have belonged to a child. "Another one," he said. His voice was high, clear, wrong in a way Clara could not name. "Father always finds another one." Sebastian stood in the doorway. Clara could feel his presence behind her, cold and still. "Matthias, this is Miss Bishop. She will be your new governess." "Nanny," Clara corrected. "I was never properly trained for a governess position." The boy laughed. It was not a child's laugh. "Honesty? That is new." He tilted his head, studying her the way a hawk studied a mouse. "How long will you last, Miss Bishop?" The longest was 3 months, the shortest was 4 hours. She saw what father keeps in the cellar and ran before she could even unpack. "What does your father keep in the cellar? Wine? Blood? Memories?" Matthias smiled, showing teeth that were slightly too sharp. "Old things that do not belong in the light." Clara crossed the room, glass crunching beneath her worn shoes. She stopped 3 feet from the boy, close enough to reach, far enough to retreat. A professional distance. "I have seen old things," she said. "I have carried memories I wished I could bury. I am not interested in your father's cellar. I am interested in you. Why? Because you are a child, and you are alone, and someone should have taught you that breaking things does not fill the empty spaces inside you." For a moment, something flickered across Matthias's face, something young and lost and desperately hungry for something that was not blood. Then it vanished, and the mask returned, the ancient eyes in the young face, the smile that held centuries of practiced cruelty. "I will make you run," he said. They all run. Perhaps. Clara knelt, bringing herself to his level. This close, she could see the unnaturalness of him more clearly, the too perfect skin, the absolute stillness when he was not moving, the way his chest did not rise and fall with breath. "But I am very tired of running, so you will have to work hard to make me leave." She held out her hand. Matthias stared at it as if she had offered him a loaded weapon. His eyes darted to his father, still standing in the doorway, then back to Clara. "Your hand is warm," he said, and the longing in his voice cracked something deep in Clara's chest. "Yes. I do not remember what warmth feels like. Not really. Only the memory of it." "Then, perhaps," Clara said gently, "you would like to remember again." Slowly, as if approaching a fire that might burn him, Matthias reached out. His fingers touched her palm, ice against her skin, cold that should have been painful, but somehow was not. "You did not flinch," he whispered. "I told you, I am not afraid of broken things." The first weeks were difficult. Clara learned the rhythms of the house, the hours when Sebastian retreated to his study and did not emerge, the nights when Matthias's hunger rose and he had to be kept away from her, the mornings that were not truly mornings because no sun ever touched the windows of Thornhaven. She learned which of the servants were living and which were something else, ghoulish presences that moved through the shadows and spoke in whispers. She learned that Matthias did not sleep, that he spent the long nights wandering the halls, touching things that had belonged to his mother, staring at portraits of humans he had outlived by decades, that sometimes he screamed without reason, overwhelmed by memories that his child's mind could not process, fragments of the lives he had taken in his early years, when Sebastian had not yet learned how to control him. "He absorbed them," Sebastian told her one evening, when Matthias was occupied with a book of fairy tales that Clara had found in the library. "When he fed, the memories came with the blood. A 7-year-old, carrying the lives of grown men and women. The weight of it nearly destroyed him." "How many?" Clara asked. 11. Sebastian's voice was flat, the way it always was when he spoke of the past. "Before I understood what was happening, before I could stop it." Clara watched Matthias turn the pages of his book. His lips moved silently, sounding out words he had surely read 1,000 times before. He looked, in that moment, like any child, absorbed, innocent, reaching for magic through stories. He remembers them all? Every moment of their lives, their childhoods, their loves, their fears, their deaths. Sebastian closed his eyes. "It is a particular kind of hell, Miss Bishop, to be 7 years old forever while carrying the memories of 11 adults, to understand death intimately while never being able to die, to know what it feels like to love and lose and grow old while your own body remains frozen in place. That is why he breaks things. Yes, because he cannot break himself." Sebastian looked at her, and for a moment the mask slipped. Beneath it was something that looked almost like hope. "No one has ever understood that before," he said. "I am a nanny, my lord. Understanding children is what I do." But as she spoke the words, Clara knew they were not entirely true. She did not understand Matthias the way she had understood the twins, with the easy knowledge of mortal development, the predictable stages of growth. She understood him the way she understood her own grief. Intimately, terribly, from the inside out. That night, Matthias came to her room. She was not asleep. She had learned not to sleep deeply in this house, where the darkness held too many teeth. She heard his footsteps in the hall, light as falling leaves, and then the creak of her door. "Miss Bishop?" She sat up. "Yes, Matthias?" He stood in the doorway, pale as a ghost, his nightshirt too large for his small frame. "I cannot make the memories stop tonight. They are loud. They want me to remember dying." Clara lifted the edge of her blanket. "Would you like to sit with me for a while?" He crossed the room so quickly she almost did not see him move. Vampire speed, impossible and wrong. But then he was beside her, cold presence pressed against her warmth, and he was trembling. I remember a woman named Margaret, he whispered. She had 3 children. She was walking home from market when I found her. She was thinking about what she would cook for dinner, rabbit stew. Her husband liked rabbit stew. His voice broke. I did not mean to hurt her. I did not understand what I was doing, but I remember her dying. I remember it from inside her mind. And she was so afraid, Miss Bishop. She was so afraid, and she was thinking of her children, and I— Shh. Clara wrapped her arm around him, ignoring the cold that seeped through her nightgown. Shh. That was a long time ago. It does not feel like a long time ago. It feels like now. It always feels like now. She had no comfort to offer him, no platitudes about forgiveness or moving on. She knew, better than anyone, that some guilts could not be absolved. So she did the only thing she could. She held him. She let him tremble against her warmth. She hummed a lullaby that her mother had sung to her, centuries after his mother had crumbled to dust. And she did not let go until the trembling stopped. "You are strange," Matthias said finally, his voice muffled against her shoulder. "So are you. Father says I am broken." "Your father is wrong." Clara pulled back, tilting his chin up so she could meet his eyes. "You are not broken, Matthias. You are carrying too much. That is different." "Is it?" "Yes, broken things cannot be fixed, but burdens can be shared, lightened, laid down." He stared at her, and for a moment the ancient eyes were just the eyes of a frightened child. "You will leave," he said. "Everyone leaves. Perhaps, but not tonight, and not tomorrow. And maybe, if you let me, not for a very long time." The change was slow, the way all real changes are. Clara established routines: breakfast at sunset, lessons in the evening, stories by candlelight in the dark hours before dawn. She did not try to fix Matthias, or cure him, or force him into the shape of a normal child. She simply stayed. When he raged, she waited. When he wept, she held him. When the memories rose and threatened to drown him, she sat beside him and reminded him who he was. "You are Matthias Valerius. You are 7 years old. You are in Thornhaven Manor. You are safe." Over and over, like a prayer. Sebastian watched from the shadows, as he always watched, but Clara noticed that he began to emerge more often, that he lingered in doorways when she read to Matthias, that he asked her, hesitantly, how the boy was progressing. "He is not progressing," Clara told him honestly. "He will never progress. He will never be 8 or 12 or 20. That is not what I am here to do." "Then what are you here to do?" "I am here to help him live with what he is, to find peace inside the prison of his own mind, to teach him that the memories he carries do not have to define him, that he can be Matthias, not the echo of everyone he has lost." Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. "That is more than anyone else has ever offered." "That is because I understand him. Because of the fire, the children you lost." Clara flinched. She had not spoken of the twins since that first night. The wound was still too raw, too close to the surface. "Because of many things. Because I know what it feels like to carry something that does not belong inside you. Because I know that sometimes the only way forward is through. And if there is no through, if Matthias is trapped forever, then I will be trapped with him, and at least he will not be alone." Sebastian looked at her with those ancient eyes, and Clara felt, for the first time, the full weight of his attention. Not the lord of the manor observing his servant, not the vampire assessing his prey. Something older, something deeper. "You are remarkable, Miss Bishop. I am tired and stubborn and half-broken myself. That is not remarkable. It is to me." The hunters came on a night without moon. Clara woke to screaming, not Matthias this time, but Marcus, the old ghoul who had served the family for generations. She threw on her robe and ran, following the sound, and found the front hall filled with fire and blood. There were 5 of them, men in black, carrying weapons that gleamed with silver and smelled of holy water. They moved with the precision of soldiers, and they had already killed 2 of the household servants. Marcus lay against the wall, his throat torn, his ancient eyes flickering toward death. "Miss Bishop," he gasped. "The boy, protect the boy." Clara did not think. She ran. The nursery door was already open when she reached it. Inside, Matthias crouched in the corner, his eyes wide with terror, his fangs extended in unconscious defense. Before him stood a hunter, crossbow raised, silver bolt gleaming in the candlelight. "The beast child," the hunter said. "The abomination that cannot grow. We have searched for you for decades, little monster." "He is not a monster." Clara's voice came out steady, though her heart was pounding. "He is a child," the hunter laughed. "A child who has lived 40 years. A child who has killed and fed and spread the vampire curse across. He has not spread anything. He has not left this house in decades. He is not what you think. He is exactly what I think. And you, the hunter turned the crossbow toward her. You are a thrall, a servant of darkness. You will die with your masters. No, the voice came from the doorway. Sebastian stood there, and he was no longer the reserved lord of the manor, the grieving father, the watcher in the shadows. He was something else entirely, something ancient and terrible, and absolutely without mercy. You will not touch her, he said, and his voice was the voice of centuries, of kings who had ruled in darkness, of predators who had shaped empires with blood. You will not touch my son. You have entered my home. You have killed my servants. And now, he moved. Clara did not see what happened next. One moment the hunter was standing, crossbow aimed at Matthias. The next, he was on the ground, his neck bent at an impossible angle, and Sebastian was facing the doorway, where the other hunters were pouring in. Take Matthias, Sebastian said without turning. The passage behind the fireplace. Go. Father, Matthias's voice cracked. Go. Clara grabbed the boy's hand. He resisted for one terrible moment, his eyes fixed on his father, on the hunters closing in, on the violence that was about to consume everything. Your father is strong, Clara said, but he cannot fight and protect you at the same time. We have to go. Now. Something in her voice reached him. He nodded, and then they were running. Through the hidden passage, into the cold tunnels beneath the manor, into darkness that seemed to have no end. Behind them, the sounds of battle, screams, the crack of bones, the wet sound of tearing flesh. Clara did not look back. The tunnels led to a cave at the edge of the estate, hidden by centuries of overgrowth. Clara and Matthias huddled there, listening to the distant sounds of fire. The manor was burning, she realized. The hunters had set it ablaze. Father, Matthias whispered, he will survive. Your kind is hard to kill. Not that hard, not with silver, not with holy water. The boy's voice was thin, ancient grief wrapped in a child's terror. Not when they know what they are doing. Clara pulled him closer. Then we will wait, and we will believe that he is strong enough. They waited. The fire burned for hours, painting the sky orange through the mouth of the cave. Matthias did not speak. He did not cry. He simply stared at the flames, and Clara could see the memories moving behind his eyes. Not the stolen memories of his victims, but his own. His mother, crumbling to dust. His father, standing in the doorway, ready to die for him. Everyone he had ever loved, leaving. I should have fought, he said finally. I am strong enough. You could have died, and your father would never have forgiven himself. He barely looks at me. He cannot bear what I am. Clara turned the boy to face her. Your father has spent decades searching for someone who could help you. He has bankrupted himself paying nannies and tutors and specialists. He has endured the hatred of the village and the judgment of his own kind. And tonight, he stood between you and death without hesitation. She gripped his shoulders. That is not a man who cannot bear what you are. That is a man who loves you so much that he does not know how to show it. Matthias's lip trembled. Then why does he never say it? Because he is afraid. Because he has lost so much already. Because sometimes love makes us stupid and silent and terrible at the things that matter most. Somewhere in the darkness, footsteps. Clara pushed Matthias behind her, searching for a weapon, finding nothing but rocks and her own fear. But then a figure emerged from the shadows, and it was Sebastian, bloody, burned, his fine clothes torn to rags, but alive, impossibly, beautifully alive. Father! Matthias flew across the cave and crashed into him. Sebastian caught him, held him, and then, for the first time Clara had ever seen, the vampire king sank to his knees and wept. I thought I had lost you, he whispered. I thought... Miss Bishop saved me. She carried me through the tunnels. She kept me safe. Sebastian looked up, and his eyes found Clara's across the darkness. There were tears on his face, red with blood, and his expression held something she had never seen before. Gratitude, wonder, and something else. Something that made her heart stutter. You stayed, he said. I told you. I am tired of running. They rebuilt. It took months. The manor was gutted, most of its treasures destroyed. But Sebastian had resources that extended beyond mortal understanding. Workers came, creatures of the night who asked no questions and vanished before dawn. Stone by stone, room by room, Thornhaven rose again. But it rose differently. Clara chose the colors this time. Warm tones instead of cold shadows. Windows that actually emitted light during the brief hours of winter sun. A nursery that was not a prison, but a sanctuary, filled with books and art supplies and a small piano that Matthias taught himself to play. "It feels like a home," Sebastian said one evening, standing in the doorway of the finished library. "It has not felt like a home in centuries. That is because you tried to make it into a tomb." Clara shelved another book, avoiding his eyes. "You were grieving. You wanted the house to match your grief. And now? Now you are healing. The house should heal with you." He moved closer. Clara could feel his presence behind her, cold and vast and impossibly ancient, yet somehow gentle in a way that made her breath catch. "I have lived for 300 years, he said. "I have loved twice. My maker, who taught me to hunt and then abandoned me. My wife, who gave me a son and then destroyed herself. I thought love was a weakness, a vulnerability that immortals could not afford. And now? Now I watch you with my son, and I think—" He stopped. Clara turned and found him closer than she had expected, close enough to see the individual facets of his crystalline eyes, the slight tremor in his bloodless lips. "I think perhaps I was wrong. Sebastian, you called me by my name," a ghost of a smile. "You have never done that before. You are my employer. Is that all I am?" Clara should have stepped back, should have remembered her place, her mortality, the impossible gulf between them. But she was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of pretending that the past 3 months had not changed everything. "No," she whispered, "that is not all you are." He kissed her. It was cold, impossibly cold, like pressing her lips to winter itself. But beneath the cold was hunger, not for blood, but for connection, for warmth, for the simple human comfort of being held. He kissed her as if she was water, and he had been dying of thirst for centuries. And Clara kissed him back with all the grief and hope and desperate longing she had been carrying since the night the twins died. "This is foolish," Sebastian murmured against her lips. "You are mortal. I will watch you grow old and die. Then watch, and let me live while I can. I could turn you, make you immortal, keep you forever." Clara pulled back, meeting his eyes. "No, no. I have seen what immortality costs. I have held your son while he screams with the weight of memories that are not his own. I have watched you move through this house like a ghost, mourning a wife who has been gone for decades. I do not want eternity, Sebastian. I want this, now, whatever time I have." He stared at her, and she saw the struggle in his eyes, the ancient loneliness warring with the desperate desire to possess, to keep, to never lose again. "You would choose death over forever with me?" "I would choose a mortal life with meaning over an eternal existence of sorrow. And I would hope—" She touched his face, feeling the cold marble of his skin. "I would hope that loving me, even briefly, might teach you that letting go is not the same as loss." The years passed. Clara grew older, gray threaded through her brown hair, lines formed around her eyes. Her hands lost their steadiness. Sebastian did not age at all, frozen forever in the prime of his existence. And sometimes Clara caught him watching her with something that looked like grief. But it was a different grief now, not the suffocating despair of his early centuries, but something softer, a melancholy acceptance, the bittersweet knowledge that all beautiful things must end. Matthias grew too, in his own way. Not physically, he remained 7, would remain 7 forever, but in ways that mattered more. He learned to control his hunger, to keep the memories at bay, to find joy in the small moments that Clara had taught him to treasure. He played piano in the evenings. He read voraciously. He planted a garden in the grounds of the new manor, flowers that bloomed in moonlight, pale, and strange, and beautiful. "Miss Bishop," he said one evening, when Clara was 60, and her joints ached with the autumn cold. "Are you afraid?" "Of what, darling?" "Of dying." Clara considered the question. She was sitting by the fire, wrapped in blankets, watching Matthias tend to a white rose that had somehow bloomed in November. "No," she said finally. "I do not think I am. Father is afraid. He does not say it, but I can see it in his eyes. He watches you like he is trying to memorize you. That is because he loves me, and love makes us afraid of losing what we treasure. But you are not afraid of losing him?" "I will not lose him, Matthias. He will lose me. That is different." Clara smiled, feeling the truth of it settle into her bones. "I have had 40 years that I never expected to have. 40 years of watching you grow. 40 years of being loved by a man who had forgotten how. When I close my eyes for the last time, I will do it knowing that my life mattered, that I helped heal what was broken. That is not something to fear, That is something to celebrate. Matthias was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed the room and knelt beside her chair, his cold hand finding hers. "You saved me," he said. "You know that, do you not? When you came to Thornhaven, I was ready to destroy myself. I had tried before, but Father always stopped me. I thought I would go on forever, trapped and alone and screaming inside my own head. And now? Now I have memories worth keeping. Yours, Father's, the years we have spent together, building something that is not pain." He looked up at her, and his ancient eyes were wet. "That is your gift, Miss Bishop. You taught me that the past does not have to be a prison, that even the darkest memories can be outweighed by new ones, good ones." Clara lifted her other hand and brushed the hair from his forehead, a gesture she had performed 1,000 times, yet it felt new every time. "I am proud of you," she said. "Whatever happens next, wherever I go, remember that. I am so proud of the boy you are becoming. I am not becoming anything. I will be 7 forever. No," Clara smiled. "You will be 7 in body, but in here," she touched his chest where his heart did not beat but somehow still felt. "In here, you are growing every day, and that is the only growth that truly matters." Clara died in spring. She went gently, the way she had lived, without drama, without struggle, without begging for more time. Sebastian held her hand as the sun rose outside windows she had chosen, filling the room with the light she had brought into their lives. Matthias sat at the foot of the bed, his small face solemn, his ancient eyes understanding. "I love you," Sebastian whispered. "I should have said it more. I should have—" "You said it every day." Clara's voice was thin now, barely a thread of sound. "In how you looked at me, in how you held Matthias, in how you let yourself hope again." She squeezed his hand with what little strength remained. "Do not bury yourself with me, Sebastian. Do not become a tomb again." "How can I not? How can I go on when you—" "Because you have a son who needs you, because you have centuries ahead of you, and they do not have to be empty. Because I did not spend 40 years loving you just to have you throw it all away in grief." Her eyes found Matthias. "Take care of him, darling. He is worse at this than you are." "I will." Matthias's voice cracked. "I promise." Clara smiled. It was the last thing she did. They buried her in the garden she had helped them build, beneath the white roses that bloomed in moonlight. Sebastian stood over the grave for 3 days, unmoving, a statue of grief carved from immortal stone. Matthias waited beside him, not speaking, not trying to comfort, just present, just there. On the 4th day, Sebastian spoke. "She asked me not to become a tomb. I know. I do not know how to do that. I do not know how to live without her." Matthias reached up and took his father's hand. It was the first time he had initiated contact in decades. "I do not know either," he said, "but Miss Bishop taught me something. She taught me that we do not have to know how to do something before we try. We just have to be willing to try." He looked up at his father, and there was something new in his ancient eyes, something that looked almost like peace. "She would want us to try, Father." Sebastian looked down at his son, at the small hand holding his, at the face that was still 7, would always be 7, but somehow held more wisdom than most immortals acquired in millennia. "When did you become so wise?" he asked. "Miss Bishop taught me." Matthias smiled, and it was a real smile, not the mask of cruelty he had worn for decades, but something genuine. "She taught me many things, and I will spend the rest of forever trying to be worthy of them." Sebastian knelt, pulling his son into an embrace. They held each other over Clara's grave, father and son, vampire king and cursed child, 2 broken things that a tired, stubborn, half-broken woman had somehow made whole. "I love you," Sebastian said. The words felt strange in his mouth. He had not spoken them since Isadora, had not believed he could speak them ever again. "I should have said it more. I should have—" "You said it every day." Matthias's voice was muffled against his shoulder. "In how you looked at me, in how you held me when I screamed, in how you never gave up, even when everyone told you to." He pulled back, meeting his father's eyes. "Miss Bishop taught me that too." Thornhaven stands still, in a valley where the fog rolls thick on autumn evenings. The villagers tell stories about it. Different stories now than they told a century ago. They speak of the Lord who walks the grounds at night, tending a garden of white roses. They speak of the boy who never grows, who sometimes appears at the gate to wave at passing children. They speak of the woman buried beneath the moonflowers, whose grave is always covered in fresh blossoms regardless of the season. They say the house is haunted. They are wrong. The house is not haunted. The house is loved. By a father who learned that letting go is not the same as loss. By a son who discovered that even the darkest memories can be outweighed by new ones. By the spirit of a woman who came looking for death and found instead a reason to live. Sometimes on nights when the fog is thickest, Sebastian walks to Clara's grave. He does not weep. He has not wept since the day she died. But he speaks to her, telling her about Matthias's progress, about the books he has read, about the way the roses bloomed this year. He tells her that he misses her, that he loves her, that he is trying every day to be worthy of the gift she gave him, and sometimes, when the wind is right, he could swear he hears her answer. "I am proud of you," the wind seems to whisper. "Whatever happens next, wherever you go, remember that. I am so proud of the man you are becoming." Sebastian smiles. It is not a happy smile. He does not know if he will ever be truly happy again. But it is a smile nonetheless. "I am not becoming anything," he says to the night. "I will be this forever." And the wind, if it could laugh, seems to laugh. "No," it whispers, "you will be this in body. But in here," and he feels something touch his chest, cold as winter, warm as love. "In here, you are growing every day, and that is the only growth that truly matters." Sebastian stands in the garden until dawn threatens the horizon. Then he returns to the house, where Matthias waits with a book of fairy tales and a cup of blood wine warming by the fire. "Father," the boy says, "will you read to me?" "Of course." They settle into their chairs, the vampire king and his eternal son, two creatures of darkness who learned, against all odds, to let in the light. And as Sebastian's voice fills the room with stories of magic and monsters and happy endings that sometimes hurt, the spirit of Clara Bishop watches over them, not as a ghost, as a memory worth keeping, forever.